When they dragged Sergeant Jonah Cross into the interrogation chamber aboard the HFY dreadnought, the alien guards were already jeering. The HFY were notorious slavers, insectoid giants with razor-honed mandibles and thick carapaces that turned aside small arms fire. They'd broken the wills of 100 species, from armored Vorkan berserkers to telepathic Saurons, so what chance did a lone human have? Jonah's boots scraped the metal floor as they shoved him forward. Blood caked one side of his face and his uniform was torn at the shoulder. But his eyes, cold, gray, and steady, made some of the guards hesitate. The warden, a towering HFY with a ceremonial chitin cloak, scuttled from the shadows. His voice rasped through a translator drone. "Human," he clicked mockingly. "So soft. So fragile. Tell us how to bypass your fleet's minefields and maybe we'll spare your miserable colony." Jonah said nothing. He let his gaze drift across the chamber. The flickering restraint field at his wrists, the glimmer of heat exhaust vents overhead, the faint vibration of a ship ready for orbital bombardment. Details. Humans were always good at details. The warden sneered. He motioned to the watching soldiers. "Show him what happens when prey disobeys." 2 guards stomped forward and slammed the human into a steel pillar, driving a current through the restraint field. Jonah's back arched. Pain lanced through him, white-hot, burning like acid in his veins. But when the current cut off, he didn't scream. He laughed, low and raw, spitting blood at the warden's feet. "You think this is the worst I felt?" Jonah croaked. "I've been through Camp Kadesh. I've survived the vacuum when your assault shuttles punched a hole in the Marianne. You bugs don't even know what pain is." The warden hissed. "Break him." They took their time. One by one, HFY warriors stepped up, each bigger than the last. Cracking fists against his ribs, snapping a baton across his jaw. Between blows, they laughed in shrill, hissing trills. Weak prey. Soft prey. Easy meat. Except the human kept looking at them with that same cold stare, that look the old Terran generals used to have when they promised they'd bring hell with them. Even with his breath ragged and his eye swollen shut, Jonah's mouth twisted into a grin. Finally, the warden loomed close. "What is so funny, human?" Jonah flexed his numb fingers against the restraint cuffs. "You forgot," he rasped, "the first rule when capturing a human soldier." The warden tilted its armored head. "And what rule is that?" Jonah's grin widened, red teeth glinting in the gloom. "Don't give him time to plan." With a sudden twist, he slammed his shoulder into the pillar. Pain flared like lightning, bone grinding against bone, but the impact shorted the old restraint circuit. The field flickered and died. He was free. Before the nearest HFY could react, Jonah ripped the shock baton from its claw and drove the sparking tip straight into its breathing slit. A hiss, a shriek, the guard collapsed, spasming. Jonah lunged for its sidearm, a chunky plasma blaster, and fired point blank into the next one's eye cluster. Panic erupted in the chamber. The HFY were strong, but they weren't used to prey that bit back, let alone prey that used the enemy's weapons better than they did. Jonah ducked a claw swipe, rolled beneath a swipe of armored limbs, and jammed the plasma barrel under the warden's chin. "Here's my answer about the minefields," he snarled, his voice ragged. "Go to hell." The shot blew through the warden's skull in a burst of molten chitin. Jonah pivoted, firing controlled bursts, using overturned consoles for cover. Alarms blared through the dreadnought. Fire suppression foam hissed from the walls as plasma bolts ignited fuel lines. He grabbed a fallen guard's comlink and barked into it, "Cross to any surviving Terran Marines, the bugs are busy bleeding. Blow the core, now." A distant rumble answered him, demolition charges hidden by his unit before capture, now tearing through the dreadnought's spine. The HFY's laughter turned to shrieks as bulkheads cracked and atmosphere vented into the void. Jonah limped through the chaos, battered and bleeding but grinning like a wolf. He passed a viewport where he could see the human fleet regrouping, minefields flaring to life, Terran ships closing in, ready to finish what he'd started. Later, the footage would be broadcast to every human colony, the day the HFY learned that when you corner a human, when you mock them, chain them, and underestimate what they'll do for freedom, you don't just lose the battle. You live to regret it. Humanity F***, yeah, **.